Lace 'em up, let's start the show. We're digging in with Trip. 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 We're digging in with Trip today. Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for your unbelievable contribution to A Doorway to Hope. That's why we're here. And thank you to Sean Hill, Justin Williams, Cam Ward, 3 Hurricanes true greats, for joining us here in Justin's man cave. Now, Susan, this is your show. You have a ton of, this is, I can look and tell you candidly, this is more homework than I've done for any broadcast in 24 years. So it's your show. Q&A begins now.
All right, Cam, I'm going to start with you.
Ooh. What do? You just, all right, here we go, rock and roll.
What was it like winning the Stanley Cup and the Conn Smythe Trophy your first season in the NHL with the Canes?
Well, yeah, I guess it's an old cliche, but it was a dream come true. The fact that it was against the Edmonton Oilers, I kind of grew up in Sherwood Park, just outside of Edmonton, so to be able to play against the team that I kind of grew up watching and facing them in the Stanley Cup was pretty amazing. I know I had a lot of conflicted friends and back home in Edmonton, but it was a lot of fun. And, we certainly had a real special team. Guys that laid it all on the line and would do anything for one another. I think that was kind of the wolf pack mentality. So, it was a special way to start the career, and I quickly learned how hard it was to get back there.
Well, you deserved the Conn Smythe, I can tell you that. All right, Justin?
We got a lot of Conn Smythes here in this little conglomeration right now.
Only one person doesn't have one.
I don't either. So.
I don't. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, me either.
Justin?
Okay, I feel better now.
I don't.
All right, Justin, what does the title Mr. Game 7 mean to you?
Quite honest, that title just means I was on a part of really, really resilient hockey teams. That's what it means to me. It means I was part of very successful teams when the chips were all on the table and it was win or go home. That's what it means to me. It means a lot of special memories, a lot of special moments, obviously both individually and as a teammate of my other greats that I played with.
Okay, good. All right, Cam, what made the Special Olympics a project dear to your heart?
Yeah, that actually goes back to my time in Red Deer with the Red Deer Rebels. Got to play with through Brent Sutter, who ran the organization. We had a young kid named Michael MacGyver, and he was involved in the Special Olympics. That was our dressing room attendant, and him and I grew a great relationship together, and we kind of called each other our best friends. So at that time, I knew that if I was lucky enough to make the step up to the NHL and was able to give back in any way, that I knew I wanted to do it for the Special Olympics.
That's great.
Okay, I'm going to challenge you here. You're on Digging In. Okay.
Okay.
Sean Mummy Hill, because that goes back to a bus story from years ago when Thurston Howell asked my first year broadcasting, he referenced Gilligan's Island. That's the backstory there. You're old school. You go all the way back to Greensboro. Oh, what a cannon. The best voice in the history of any Hurricanes player. Throw one spontaneously. You don't have it prepped for Hilly.
Okay, Sean, who was the best player that you played with on the team back then? Besides yourself.
The best was definitely not me. The best player I ever played with on the Hurricanes. As a Hurricane,
I know it's my house. You don't have to sing. It's okay.
I don't want these guys to get mad. I mean, I was only with Cam for a very short time, but you know what? As a Hurricane, probably Ronnie Francis. Probably the best player I ever played with would probably be between Ronnie. Paul Douglas Coffey was a heck of a player. He was kind of sliding down the backside of it when he was here, but he still had flashes of brilliance. And, learned a lot from him. So I would probably have to say between those guys as, the one as a Hurricane and the other, as a NHLer.
Yeah. Do you still keep in touch with Ronnie?
I do. Not as often as I used to, but a couple times a year I'll speak with him and try and catch up with him a little bit. He's a busy man, though. You know that.
Yeah.
Paul Douglas Coffee, side note, almost became my brother-in-law. True story.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
He set me up with that's a tidbit. Yeah.
Fun fact.
Anyways, but you've got a lot to get to, so keep going.
All right, Cam. You have been a fan favorite through your years with the Canes. Do you understand why the Caniacs love you so much?
No, I mean, I don't know. It means a lot to hear that. I mean, fortunate enough to play 13 years in Carolina and took a lot of pride in that. And I know through the times the reality is there were some good times and there's some bad times. But one thing remained is I always appreciated the support that I had from the whole fan base in the Caniac Nation, and absolutely loved playing here. Hopefully it was for the hard work and the dedication and loyalty, I guess.
And seeing the smile on your face.
Oh, wow, okay. Well, those are the veneers. I had to pay for those. Yeah.
All right, Justin, this is a long one.
Okay.
In the 2005-2006 season, with the Canes, you set career highs in games played, 82, goals at 31, assists at 45, points 76, and surprisingly to me, penalty minutes 60.
Ooh.
You also scored the final goal, sealing the Canes' first Stanley Cup. Does this seem real to you or more like a dream?
Yeah, for me, stuff really did happen really quickly. I mean, when I got traded here, I was going from a Philadelphia team who was in the playoffs every year and in the hunt every year to Carolina, who, face it, at the time, I showed up and I think I played a Monday night game against Ottawa, and there weren't many fans in the arena. Things happened. Obviously, the next year it was a lockout year, and then the next year after that, I mean, we won the Stanley Cup. So it happened extremely quick for me. Obviously, it helped having those numbers. The type of game that Peter Laviolette coached, it was a go mentality, always moving, high octane offense type thing. And obviously, it helps that I play with Corey Stillman and Rod Brindamore throughout that year. So a lot of things went into it, but as I said, things happened very quickly. You just kind of, you're able to reflect now on the really good years that you had, but you realize there were reasons why you got there, and it was hard work, and it was hard work of my teammates too.
Yeah, it's still there. I've got a Laviolette story.
Oh, give it.
Good.
Do tell.
The floor is yours.
Remember when we used to be able to go into the locker rooms and sign autographs and do everything back then, take pictures of you guys on the bench? Well, we took a picture with some Canes and Peter Laviolette, and the next day he got traded, so I think it's my fault.
I don't think he blames you.
I blame him for.
We're gonna ask him.
I blame him for the fact he tried to off some Nutrisystem to me at one point and got me to invest in a thoroughbred racehorse that still hasn't come home. Side note.
Oh, but no hard feelings, right?
I love Peter Laviolette. I love Peter Laviolette because that special group, they had to do it themselves, but he made them believe.
Yeah, they were a great group. Okay, Cam, back to you. You signed a one-day contract with the Canes in order to retire. What did that feel like?
Plus how much?
Yeah, I'm still waiting. Still waiting to collect, I guess. But
Check hasn't come to you.
yeah, no, it meant a lot to me. I mean, at that time, obviously, I knew that I wanted to retire and my career was coming to an end. And once I found out that the Hurricanes wanted to do a one-day contract and kind of put closure on it, it meant a lot to me because, I mean, this is where I played majority of my career, obviously, 13 years. And but yeah, it was it was kind of funny when you do a one-day contract and there was no sum or anything on that. But yeah, I mean, this is home. This is where my family still remains and will for the future. So it meant a lot to me.
Just so if you guys forget, like, these guys are the type of players that he didn't have to sign one because this was his last team. They signed him to a one-day contract. I asked if I could get that done, and they said there was too much term. So, that's a level I am not compared to these guys. So, which one doesn't belong?
Okay.
Let me ask, you say this is your home. I mean, some guys play here and stay. I mean, but you're coming from a long ways away. You grew up someplace else. What is it that keeps you here? What is it that you like about this area? That keeps
That goes for
All three.
Yeah, anybody.
He's got
That
the
you
mic.
move from
He's
come back here like
and
three
stay.
times.
or whatever, and you end up staying.
Yeah, I
Not
think
everybody stays.
I think for me, myself, my wife is from here, and so
Oh, there.
her family is here. But my best years were as a Hurricane, and I have a lot of great teammates like these guys that are still here, and it just the second part of life is a lot harder than the first, and it's good to have teammates like this and guys to be with every day and hang out with and bounce stuff off. So it's been great for me to get back here and join up with these guys again.
I mean, I second that. I mean, I enjoy the people. I enjoy the weather. I enjoy the way of life here. I enjoy cost of living compared to some other places that I played at. Just all in all, I'm kind of an East Coast guy. I like the East Coast. I like the flexibility of going up and down there. But it's obviously become home for us as well. I mean, my son was born here. We moved back here. We built the house, and we're here for the time being. Don't know what the future holds. But
Time being.
nobody knows what the future holds, Sean. Nobody knows.
Sounds
So
like I moved back here because you're here.
The future is a mystery.
But yeah, I think what I would say is just very similar to what these guys were saying. I mean, I think it's the connections that you make over your time, and like Willie said, both my kids were born here, right at Rex Hospital, and yeah, you kind of get spoiled and fortunate with the weather.
Oh, yeah.
I don't miss living in the snow for 8 months anymore, but yeah, it's just a great place to raise a family, and really happy.
Okay, good. All right, this is for Justin. Which of your injuries was the hardest to come back from?
which of my injuries was the hardest to come back from?
Yeah, you had a few.
I think
Two
depends. 2 ACLs. I would pain-wise, it was probably the ACLs. Those were tough. Especially the second one, knowing what I had to go through the first time, and then having happen the second time. It gives you just a little bit more perspective, knowing what the road ahead is going to look like. But at the same time, you know what the road ahead is going to look like. So I would probably say the ACLs were the tougher ones to come back from. I had a broken leg in LA with some ankle stuff. So that was kind of a pain in the butt. But I guess to answer your question, the ACLs.
Okay. Cam, you were on fire when you replaced Martin Gerber. What was it like being his backup first and then being put in the number 1 spot?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people forget, that regular season, how good Martin Gerber really was. He was a great partner for me, and a big reason I feel like we got home ice advantage going into the playoffs. And just the way that it all transpired, it was kind of unfortunate for him that he got sick, in the first game, and then I got the opportunity to come in the second one. And as a goaltender, I think the mindset you always want to have is to be ready for that next opportunity. And that was my mindset, and when I knew when I got that opportunity that I wanted to take advantage of it, make the most of it, and I'll never forget when Coach Laviolette told me I was going to start Game 3 in Montreal, and just prior to going up the elevator, and asked if I was ready, and I basically said, I know I'm only 21, but I've waited my whole life for this. This is what we play the game for, and you want to step up in those kind of situations, and unfortunately, things really clicked, and I'll never forget going out for warm-ups in Montreal and kind of taking a moment to stretch at center ice and just taking in the whole entire atmosphere. And I thought, how cool is this? Like this is why we play the game. And I kind of told myself that no matter what happens tonight, I'm going to go enjoy myself and have some fun. And I think when you do that, you play loose. And I was able to keep that same mentality throughout the entire playoffs. And fortunately, it worked out in the end.
That's putting it mildly, yeah.
I'll kind of elaborate on that a little bit. I think with goaltenders, you see so many talented goaltenders. I mean, there's hundreds of them. But what makes a goaltender great is not the amount of saves they make, it's when they make the saves.
Yeah.
And Cam just had a knack for just getting them exactly when we needed them. And all great goalies share that same quality. So that was really encapsulated, that playoffs is when he made the saves that we needed him to. And springboarded us to having some these things right here.
The other trophies, yeah. All right, so this one's for you, Justin.
Oh.
You ready? You and your wife, Kelly.
You haven't even flipped the page yet, though, huh?
Not yet, that's still good.
And I'm still waiting.
And she's
on
waiting.
Okay.
I'm back.
Okay.
You and your wife, Kelly, are big supporters of an organization called A Doorway to Hope.
Mm-hmm.
How did you become involved, and what can you tell me about the role you and Kelly play?
Well, I'm more of a helper in that aspect. I mean, Kelly is the one who kind of got involved with Maria and Mike with kind of bringing her in. And once she was in, if you know my wife, she kind of goes all in with everything. So it's become something that's very, very, very important to her, stuff that she works on every year. And when you see your hard work really have an effect on other people's lives, that's when it makes you feel good as well. And I think as people get older, they always liked getting gifts when they were younger, but now as we get older, we kind of enjoy giving to other people, bestowing upon other people great things, and I know you guys do as well. So, for her, I'm just kind of supporting her.
That's good. And Tripp is the one that got us interested, and
All
you've
my
been big
credit,
supporters.
everything goes to Kelly Williams. It really does. Hey, I want to ask one quick, as you guys get ready to keep. A lot of barking digging in this episode. I want to just, as you guys keep going, Hilly, I remember, because these, aside from their excellence, which is all over this place, championship excellence, I remember one day at the old practice rink, and Sean had just gotten reacquired. He had been here before. He'd gotten reacquired from the St. Louis Blues. The Canes were in a bit of a spiral. And he came in, and Paul Maurice, the coach at the time, said it changed the whole energy of the locker room. And they went on to playing a Hall of Fame lad in Detroit team. And I remember your one-timer, by the way, against Hasek, I think, and Joe Lewis.
We're using that
5-on-3.
red stick.
Yeah, you went
Remember that
shelf,
red one?
Hilly.
That thing was awesome.
Yellow one.
Was it yellow?
I think it was yellow then.
Colorblind.
His visor came down to about
It
here.
was.
And he, but Sean changed the whole energy of the room. And you fast forward all these years, a guy that he mentored in Minnesota, and he's very close with Brent Burns, has brought some of that same energy, who, as we tape this, played his 1,300th game in the big win yesterday. Hilly, how do you define, with your experience in the league, what is a great teammate behind the scenes in the NHL?
I think there's a lot of different things. I think kind of reading the room a little bit, knowing who needs what when it comes to whether they need a pat on the back, whether they need a let's pick it up type of thing.
Kick in the ass.
I don't know if we're saying that on here. But
Digging in, anything goes.
A boot in the ass. Yeah. Just being there for guys and realizing that, and there's been times when I haven't been a good teammate, and, I regret it to this day when I haven't been. And it's, I think it's the thing that I always would think about is anybody can be a good or a great teammate when things are going well, but it's when the chips are down, and that's when you find out who, your best teammates are and who's looking out for more than just themselves. And, I think that's the biggest question. And if you can answer that one, then you're doing all right.
Good answer.
All right, Cam, It's your turn.
All right.
You've been elected to the Hurricanes Hall of Fame. The announcement surprised you while you were doing an interview. Caniacs were ecstatic. Do you still feel the love from us Caniacs?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, it was a big surprise for me, especially the way that they did it. Mike Sondheim had kind of been asking me for a little while to come in and do an interview and just speak on the 25th anniversary in the outdoor game. But sure enough, in the first question, there comes Roddy, and I literally thought he was just interrupting us. And then obviously to get that surprise, it means a lot to me. I think a lot has been made of this year being the 25th anniversary, and when you look back at the 25 years of the organization, you realize there's been so many good players and good people that have come through the organization. So to be selected to be in the Hall of Fame of the Hurricanes means a lot to me, and will be a fun night for myself and my family.
That's great. We were hoping that more banners would go up, but NC State has too many banners hanging, so evidently that's why they started the Hall of Fame.
Okay.
And hopefully it'll be somewhere where the fans can actually see all of this. Okay, Justin, do you feel any additional pressure when you have the C on your jersey?
Do I feel any added pressure? I think so, but I think that's just what you bestow upon yourself. I mean, there comes a time in your career that you can't be bashful anymore. You have to own it. You have to realize the importance of having a good leader, and you have to realize and have the confidence to accept that role. And for me, never really being an assistant captain before, except for some spot duty here and there, and Rod, giving me the captaincy when I came back, it was something that you really, obviously it's a special thing, but at the same time, you gotta not change your way, just keep doing the same things you have been doing that made you get there in the first place. So not changing yourself, but really having to, as Sean says, read the room a little bit more, and your job is to keep the team together and focused on the main goal. And as I said, some guys need a pat on the ass, and some guys need a kick in the ass, and you got to be willing to do both.
I think something to add to that is, it says he's never been an assistant captain, but as a coach, I would think that a guy like him, that this guy's going to lead. You might have someone else who might be hurt if they don't get an assistant, an A on their jersey. Well, then you're lucky you have a guy like him who you're like, well, he's going to lead anyways. I don't need to give him an A. It's not going to hurt his feelings if he doesn't have an A. And he's going to bring probably as much or more than the guy who gets the A, and it's just built in. So it's like sometimes there's an understanding like that, and you can rely on someone like that because they're going to bring it every day.
Well, I already told Justin that I was working on him getting into the Hall of Fame too, so.
The real NHL.
Yeah, I had Justin, so. You already said this one. All right, this one's on Trip, so either of you can do this.
All right.
An embarrassing story about Trip that can be told on air.
Anything goes on Digging In. You guys have countless ones to extract.
There's gotta be some.
All three of you, just somebody jump in.
You're already red and you
I've got furnace face. I had that for years.
All right,
You got one you want to say?
Willie's already red.
He doesn't want to touch this one.
I have one. I don't know if it's embarrassing, but we were, this is back in the days when we were up in Greensboro playing. And Tripp actually got called up. We had some injuries. And Pat Jablonski was playing goal for us that night. Tripp was backing up. And I can't remember who we were playing. Do you remember who we were playing?
Dallas.
Dallas. And I think Jablonski came out to play a puck, and they had a guy barreling in on him. And anyways, there was a huge collision. And Jablonski was a pretty gritty guy, and he was like yard sailed. And I was sitting next to Tripp, and I said, Tripp, stand up. Start stretching out a little bit. Just, get your legs a little loose. And he was looking down at his skate laces. He goes, nope. And Jablonski stayed down and he was rolling around. And I said, Tripp, stand up and look Maurice in the eyes. There's a chance you'll go in. I'm like, look at him and let him know that you're, kind of like Cam did with Laviolette in the elevator. Look, let him know, yeah, I'm ready for this. I've been, preparing for this. Tripp was not preparing for that. He was looking at his skate laces and he would not turn and look at
I had a good warm-up, too.
You had a heck of a warm-up. And so next thing you know, Jabber rolls around, does a crappie flop for about a minute and a half, and then he, Friesen's out there rubbing stuff on him, and Tripp is not looking anywhere except that down at his feet, and that was it. And I told him, I said, you know what, with him coming up with this Hall of Fame thing, I said, that could have been you. and Tripp's like, well, I know what you mean. I'm like, hey, if you would have looked at Maurice in the eyes, you never know. You could have been in Cam's spot going into the Hall of Fame.
Fear got the best of me. I believe in the acronym. F everything and run, or face everything and recover. Fear got me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've done all right. Done all right.
That's a good story.
I'll
Justin.
tell a story where Tripp got in a little bit of hot water. Okay. So I was playing in Los Angeles. And I had a feeling that I would, after warm-up, get an alert on my phone saying, hey, Tripp would like you for the bench interview tonight. And I did. I got it. And I was like, all right, yep, perfect, I'll be there. So Tripp comes over, gives me the bench interview. We have a great exchange, as we often do. And at the end of the interview, he came in for a hug. And, he's the opposing team. I'm the opposing team. But I obliged. I gave him a hug. He gave me a hug. And we went on our way. And a few days later, he texted me. He said, Willie, I got in a little bit of hot water for that. Was it, maybe you can finish the story off.
Actually talked to him today. Scotty Bowman reached out to me after the game and said, I don't care who it is, you do not hug an opposing player. And I said, Scotty, Justin Williams, you do. Yeah, true story.
All right, you, Wardo.
Oh, wow.
No, I don't really got one that comes to the top of my head individually, but I kind of liked what everybody saw this year with. I thought I gave a good laugh was the Reese's Pieces.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
I think that was kind of slightly embarrassing, but you rolled with it real well.
Yeah.
You probably gave free Reese's probably by now.
Reese's get a sponsorship.
Yeah, no
Quite
kidding.
honestly, we've entertained the thought of having Reese, the peanut butter cups entertaining. I can say it on digging in. I mean, the amazing thing about this, the amazing thing about this is because I didn't have a voice, and truthfully, I probably should have skipped the game. But with everything that happened last year and what I was coming back from, I didn't.
You dug in.
I felt I needed to dig in like these guys did to the ends of the earth throughout their careers, and I probably had fear creep in, like Hilly talked about when I backed up. If I miss the game, are people going to think that something's happened that isn't good? And I was on just an abundance of cold medication, and we did the rehearsal before the open of the broadcast, and I thought it was a little stale, and it was Halloween, and the Hurricanes had a really good month that they were going to win the game. I thought I needed to spice up the open a little bit, instead of just blah, 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 throwing a little Halloween action to it. And I can tell you honestly, I didn't, because of the cold medication, I didn't even know that I said it. And so, it's going to get even better. Because we finished the open of the broadcast, and then my normal thing is I go sit down where my monitors are to get ready to do the game, and my phone's sitting right there, and I have a text from my dear friend Sean Hill, and I didn't know, and the text said, Emmett, my real name, Emmett, did you just say penis butter cups on television? And my heart stopped. And my body temperature went through the roof. And then I said to myself, hopefully Hilly's the only one who caught it.
I rewound like 10 times back. And then afterwards, like your subconscious caught it because you did it, and then you're like, give her one of those.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the backstory on it. And then I'd sit there during the game. I'm like, if they win, I actually got a text from Steve Levy, who I don't know if he's doing the outdoor game, but he had a similar flub at one point during his broadcast career. And he texted me during the first period and he said, own it and have fun with it. And then the Canes won the game in the shootout, and it just so happened there was a box of Reese's peanut butter cups out, because it was Halloween and on press row. And I figured, hey, they won the game.
Yeah.
Anderson and company won in a shootout. Time to own it. Yeah.
That's good.
Good stuff.
All right. This is for any of you, all three. What's the difference between a daily routine on game days and a superstition?
What's the difference between a daily
Where does it go from being just the kind of thing you normally do and something that you freak out if you don't do it?
Well, as a goaltender, yeah, typically as a goaltender, everybody, say typically they would have superstitions, but I kind of try to stay away from superstitions. I like to call it a routine, and I think when we've been doing it as long as we've been doing it, it just becomes that. But typically on a game day, you do my pregame skate and have a little nap. But if I don't sleep, it's all right. Especially if once I had kids, But I always, for me, I always like to be at the rink early. I like to be in the atmosphere at the rink, be one of the first guys there, and yeah, I mean, I did everything the same. But as we know, with travel and stuff like that, things can get in the way. So I never wanted to be in that mindset where it was going to affect me mentally if I wasn't able to do something that I normally would. So I guess it was just a routine, but it's real boring. It just is something that I did every year in, year out.
Nadal, huh? Who has to line up his bobble?
Yeah, no.
27.
Yeah.
He does the wedgie pick too, doesn't he? Yeah, he likes the wedgie pick.
I wasn't going to do that, but he does.
Okay, there you go.
Justin?
I think he answered it perfectly.
Okay. All right, we have one more,
Yeah.
and then Jody will take over.
Okay. This one's mine.
This one's Mike.
That's a question.
So how cool was it that storm surge year? And when did it get to be a hassle trying to think of something new? Now, given the exposure and what the difference it made for the team and the organization, to do that, all the attention, all the publicity, does anybody get a royalty from Tom Dundon for that? and do you have to share it with Don Cherry?
Listen, it was a story that year, right? I mean, it didn't start with anything, right? It just started with us jumping up against the boards and kind of saluting the fans that we had there, and slowly just became a thing where fans were waiting to see what we would do, and with that comes a little bit of pressure, being like, all right, well, we did this already. We need to maybe try something else. And Dundon and Mr. Dundon and Mr. Waddell, they were like, listen, have fun with it. We don't care what you do. Don't do anything really, really over the line, but have fun with it. So when we went for pregame meal, there would be about 6 or 7 of us that would just spitball ideas after our pregame skate. And we say, hey, what about this? What about this? What about this? And I think Brock McGinn would send out a text message through our group chat being like, boys, when we win, this is what we're going to do tonight. And a lot of times it was themed. If it was March Madness week, we'd bring out a basketball. If it was Super Bowl week, we'd bring out a Super Bowl. If it was Halloween, you do something. So that part made it a little bit easier, but we just had fun with it. We just said, we can look like idiots.
You weren't idiots. It was
we're,
great for the fans to see.
Oh yeah, we're not. It gets us to show a little bit of our personality too, and I think that's what a lot of times the NHL lacks a little bit of that. So we opened ourselves up to being a fun hockey team and a team that Raleigh can be proud of, and they're continuing to do that today.
Yeah, I'd like to see some of that come back. It was
It was
awesome.
something different the other night.
Well, and to kind of just piggyback off of that, are there any guys that don't really enjoy it?
I think there's obviously a ton of different personalities, right? There's guys that really relish it and enjoy doing it, and there's a few guys that just need to be nudged along. But once you nudge them along, they're like, all right, it's not so bad. And I remember Brent Burns when he came here. He was I forget if it was I think it was a dream he had. He had a dream that he was like doing the storm stories with us.
Oh, that's funny.
And that was before he came here. And I said, it's actually pretty awesome. He's like, it was a sign, and I knew it. And, you'd have to ask him the rest of that story, but it's interesting for sure.
Well, it was fun for the fans too, and I sent in suggestions, and you guys ended up doing some of them.
Oh, nice. Good.
Which was cool.
We
for
needed
me. I
that.
got
We
to
need
see
more
some.
fan interaction with that type of
Yeah,
thing
like
to send them in.
on those things,
Yeah.
We'll
Maybe a
send you some.
choreographer.
Hire somebody for that position.
I mean, any publicity is good, right? There's no such thing as bad publicity, so we got people talking
Right.
about the team around the country, and
Yeah.
Then
made it
down
fun.
Cherry.
It's made it fun.
Yeah, and we
Then
sold
you
some
be-
merchandise.
I loved it from the get-go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the bunch of jerks started, thanks to Don Cherry, so.
You never know, just when anything goes into, right? I mean, Tripp started this podcast, we don't know where that's gonna end up. It's just slowly building, and you never know what's gonna happen with it, right?
A while back, when they did the storm surge, a friend of mine, Dusty Field, has seats right on the glass. And Brent Burns and Svechnikov and a couple of the other guys came right over and jumped up against the glass right on us, right by us. And Dusty's like, "They did that because you were there." And I was like, "Yeah, that's cool. That's so cool. That's so cool." Then I texted Burnsy after the game, and I'm like, "That was cool when you came over." He's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Nothing. Why?"
That's so funny.
But no, he's like, "No, I had no idea you were there." I'm like, "No, I wasn't. I was just making it up."
All right, we'll move on. So you hear a lot about the culture in Raleigh, right? That's one of the biggest conversations. The guys say it all the time about the culture. What does that really mean to people like outside of the organization? Like, what does that say to us? Like, what does it mean, the culture in Raleigh?
It means it means the same thing in every sport. You want to develop an attitude within the dressing room that equals out to a culture, I suppose. That this is the standard. This is what's expected of you, and at that point, it's very easy to, throughout the years, weed out the people who aren't really all in for the right reasons. And probably ever since, I would say since Roddy has really been had the reins, he's been able to really bestow that upon everybody. And when I was there, I tried to relay the message as well. Jordan Stahl and a bunch of other guys are really pulling in the right direction right now. So I really, really like where this team is at. Not just results on the ice, but for sustained, continued success year over year. You have to have that. And you look at players and teams who have continued success. You look at the Boston Bruins. I mean, they aren't just as lucky as teams in the world.
Right.
This is something that year after year they're held to a certain standard, and it's not just the coaches holding them; it's the players holding themselves. And really, coaches want the room to govern itself. They don't want to have to come in and bark at people.
Right.
If the players can do it within themselves, that's when you know you have something pretty good.
But the Bruins haven't won at PNC since 2019.
Yes.
Who's counting?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Rod, everyone says that he is a player's coach and that they would run through a brick wall for him. What is it about Rod's leadership style that has made a difference for this team?
Well, obviously, I didn't get the luxury of having him as the head coach, but getting to play with him and talking about culture and what you want your culture to be like as a team. I mean, that's the definition of what you want it to be like Rod Brindamore and everything that he stands for. I knew when he got hired as the head coach, it is less about the X's and O's. It's about that the guys are all going to want to play for him and not let him down. You don't want to let a guy down like Rod Brindamore, who's still probably one of the fittest guys on the team, and just the time and dedication and everything that he stands for as a person. Just a real good human being, and you want to play for people like that. And I wish I had the chance to have him as my head coach, but we couldn't get past that one day contract. Yeah. But, yeah.
Extension.
At least you got to sign it.
Side note too, because it was too much term for Hilly, who I love calling his games, but on group chats, Hilly does call Rod Jack Adams.
He loves it too. Rod's really a big fan of that.
Yeah.
Well, and you guys probably had similar experience playing back in your day too, but like, all the guys today seem to be like great friends on the ice and off the ice. And obviously they want to play well for Rod, but it seems like they want to play well for each other, you know, too. Like they're all fighting for the same common goal, obviously. Do you think that that relationship on the ice is attributed to what the friendships they have off the ice?
I think, yeah, that goes without saying. You always work harder for the people you care more about. That's very, very simple. And that's, you know, I'll work harder for a friend I know as opposed to a stranger. Now, that probably doesn't sound good, but it's the truth, right? I'll give a little bit more for them. And you know, that's really what, you know, encapsulates this team. Everyone's working for the same goal. Everyone wants the same thing. And you can always bring in players, but you can't just bring in any player. You have to bring in the right player.
Right.
And, you know, given the culture that's been instilled here, you know if this guy's all in, if he's going to go all the way with you.
It seems like people know what to expect when they get here. Like they've heard or they've witnessed it. I don't know, but it seems like Don and they seem to have the right mindset of who they want to bring in. Like they know what's going to fit. It doesn't seem like we've gotten very many guys that are not a good fit.
Well, yeah, I think that goes without saying too. The last few years, people have wanted to come here. We're on people's no trade lists. We're on their free agent list of places they want to go.
Right.
And that, I don't know if that was the same way 10 years ago. So it's really become a destination, and it's attributed to how good the team is, how great the city is, and people are finally realizing that.
What is the weirdest thing you've ever seen somebody do with the cup?
Oh,
Interesting story about the cup.
that's a good one.
Chip's got one.
Actually,
No, I
Hilly probably has
I said
good ones,
because I
actually.
want to hear this from these guys. This is good.
because he played when there wasn't, you know, iPhones and
Yeah.
Yeah, when things were being recorded. For
Yeah,
social
so
media.
I don't know if you guys knew this, probably didn't get out very much because there was not that much TV and radio, but back in the 1900s, I played with Montreal and we won the cup. And probably the funniest thing I ever saw was the cup was in Patrick Waugh's pool, and it's not airtight, or you know, water gets in it, and next thing you know, that thing's heavy when it's obviously, you guys know, quite heavy. And then when it gets water and it went down fast, the bottom of the pool, and the bottom of it hit the bottom of the pool, the bottom popped off it, and then after that we had a 2-piece cup. And so the big silver part just went over and took a break, but the bottom is an excellent cocktail tray. So I was serving up beverages on the bottom of the tray after that for the rest of the day. It was,
So glad I asked.
yeah, you know, we made the best of the situation and you just kind of roll with it, you know.
Who gets fined for that? Anyone?
Not me. I don't know if anyone else did, but
No?
no.
What
That's a good one.
What have you seen, Justin? You've had two or
Yeah, you got a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the most.
What was the question?
The most interesting or disturbing thing you've seen happen to the cup?
People shouldn't have been eating cereal out of it, I'll tell you that.
My nieces did, right? Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Next
I
question.
remember seeing some really good people bring in their professional cameras now and have some really, really cool pictures with it. We have some cool ones too, but I've seen pictures with the cup on mountaintops. You know, I wish I probably would have done a little bit more with, you know, bringing it a couple places to take some really, really unique pictures. I have a lot of great memories, don't get me wrong, but I wish I would have done maybe a little bit more for myself. Because when you win it, really, you win it for everyone else that's helped you along, and those, it's their day as much as it is yours, and you want to share it with them, and you get pulled kind of either other way, and you only get a day, and
Oh, okay. That was going to be my next question. How much time do you get to spend with the cup independently?
yeah. I mean, now they have a cup keeper back.
Yeah,
Back.
I've met
I don't
him.
know when he came, but he's there all the time,
Yeah.
and
Phil, right?
yeah, there's Phil and Mike, and Yeah, there's Walt. So there's
White glove treatment.
Yeah, white,
yeah,
yes.
yeah.
we-
So there's a few of them, and fortunately I've gotten to know them a little bit. So they trusted me.
Yeah, you
They trusted me a little bit more than maybe somebody else. But their job is just to make sure you don't deface or bring anything
Bad juju.
bad
Well, I thought
to
it was
the
funny, they
cup.
always have the white gloves and then stories about it in a pool or
Right.
a baby
I think
sitting in
things have
it.
changed, obviously,
Yeah.
because apparently it's.
Probably after that incident
Yeah,
involving
and then-
Sean Hill and Patrick Watt's pool.
So I know that you guys all have kids that probably play as well. Being a player yourself, how has that impacted how you see your kids playing, and like what kind of role do you play in coaching them, or do you try to stay out of it?
Well, yeah. So my son, he actually only played for 2 years. It's like when I retired from Chicago, he retired too, but he had off the skates. But yeah, my son, like he's obviously taken a passion to it, but it's more on the like almost like the GM side of it. Like he loves to
Okay.
play the fantasy hockey, and he's a numbers kind of kid, so he enjoys the stats and all that stuff. But it's great that he wants to go to the game. So I'm a season ticket holder too now. So, I grew up with my dad always taking me to the games in Edmonton, and I wanted my son to have the similar kind of memories as I did as a kid. So I got season tickets, so we have consistent seats to be able to take him. But I like to get him out skating, but some kids just he can do whatever he wants to do, and I'm happy with that.
Just one quick thing, because we're wrapping up soon, but the story with the cup that I think you guys would find interesting. I went to St. Louis for Doug Waite's day and night with the Stanley Cup. And, I hit the ground running. We started at Busch Stadium where the Cardinals played. And then Ray Whitney and Mike the Robe Commodore they came in, and they were taking it out to Western Canada right from St. Louis. And so we had a great day. I'll say again, I was enjoying the moment. And the night portion of it, Doug Waite threw this party with his wife Allison at this phenomenal golf club. I mean, just a spectacular setting. And they had hurricanes, actually, was the special drink that they had, fittingly so. And I'm sitting there, probably feeling no pain, and in walks Tim Peel, wonderful guy. Timmy Peel's a wonderful guy. But he, working with Don Van Massenhoven, had called, Wardo had to make that many more saves standing on his head in Game 4. Saturday night in Montreal, Timmy Peel calls from center ice goalie interference on what could have been an unbelievable turning point.
Sure.
As it turns out, Willie, Wardo, they dug in and they tied that series at 2 and, won Game 5 and Game 6. But Timmy Peel, and he's a dear friend. I didn't know him so well at the time. He rolls into the Stanley Cup party wearing this mafiosa suit. I've got a hurricane in my hand, and I looked at him. I said, "What are you doing here? You almost cost this thing before it even got started." That was my favorite story.
Crazy. At what age did you guys start playing, and who did you have as your idols, I guess? Who did you look up to most?
I probably started skating when I was 4 or 5, something like that. It wasn't. A lot of people from Canada say that, hey, I had ponds or I had something.
Everybody had
I actually had a pond in my front yard. I had the cliche
Front
You
yard.
had-
front
oh,
yard.
not
It was
even
like
the
front,
back.
front side. Listen, it was
That's a
tiny.
story topper. You went front yard of the pond. I like it.
It was tiny, so it wasn't
Yeah.
a big space, but I was out
But
there
you could
skating
skate
all
on
the
it.
time with my dad and my sister. So probably around 5 is when I started.
Yeah, I think I might have been probably 3 when I first got on the ice to skate. But like Willie was saying, I mean, when I first moved to North Carolina, you saw the communities. Everybody has like a community pool. Well, back home, they're outdoor rinks. They're community outdoor rinks, and I mean that's how I kind of grew up. Learning to stop and all that stuff was at the outdoor rinks. But so probably 3, I think, was the first time I was on the ice, and then probably start organized hockey at 6, and then go from there. Yeah.
Canadians were just born with skates, aren't you?
Pretty much, yeah. That's the Canadian way, yeah.
You're born now, go
Yeah.
skate.
I think what we do, this has been unbelievable. And thank you. By the way, thank you to Vineyard 36 for your generosity. Wardo, your being here. It is the nectar of the gods. And I think we got to go to overtime to finish this thing. So hypothetically, speaking of Hurricanes greats, if we could magically make Erik Cole appear,
There you go.
what would you ask him? And let's see if we can make it happen.
So anyway, what would you ask him?
Oh, this is gonna be off the cuff. I like it.
Yeah, we're first going, winging
Yeah,
it.
we can ask you a bunch of these questions too, but I only heard part of your injury story.
Which
When
one?
I was in the suite, the one where they took you away and they were trying to tell you that you were gonna be okay.
Oh
And you
yeah.
were
So
still half
Pittsburgh.
dressed in your
Yeah.
Canes.
Yeah. So I think they cut my skates off and cut my sweater off and. But I was still pretty much in like full gear and strapped down to a board and then on a hospital gurney and had to go in for a CT scan and, come out and some nurses sitting there with me. Our trainer, Stewie, who's actually in Pittsburgh now, was in the waiting room and the doctor comes out and tries to tell me, he's like, yeah, you broke your neck, but you're very, very lucky. And I was like, it just didn't sit well with me. Like I didn't feel very lucky, like laying there on that bed. And so I've got tears rolling down the side of my face and everything. And this nurse is trying to trying to talk to me. And she's like, it's okay. It's going to be okay. And all this. I'm like, I'm sure you're a wonderful person and everything, but I need you to stop talking right now. I just need to deal with this in my own way right now. So yeah, it was, it wasn't until weeks after that, I actually, came to the realization of, how fortunate I was. I wasn't sleeping very well. Just kind of 4-hour stints and stuff, just along with the meds and things like that. And so there was a lot of, TV watching at 3-4 in the morning. And one of the things I happened to see was about, spinal cord injuries. And it was a lot about like high school football kids, making a hit and then never getting up again and things like that. So at the end of the day, very, very fortunate.
I still hate Orpik.
Yeah, me too. Western New York guys, we hate all of them.
Oh, good stuff.
All right, now, we asked everybody else an embarrassing story about Trip. Do you have one?
Oh man.
Sort through all of
It's
them.
like the list is so.
I remember the first time I met Cole. It was a great night.
Outside the office.
Yeah.
What a spot that
Correct.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think one of my favorite early memories and interactions with Trip was the first, I think it was All-Star Weekend. Yeah, it was All-Star Weekend, I think, my rookie year. It was either the All-Star break or the Olympic break. And a big crew of us went down to Sullivan's for dinner. And it was like Jeff O'Neill and his buddy and Tripper and Bates and Emily and I. And we played like birds in the bush for the bill. And, of course, I was like the first one out. And then Emily lost, and so we ended up having to flip the bill here, but it was just, we had such a fun evening out that night, Sullivan's and then Glenwood South, and it was one of the first times that I ever really went out and enjoyed the kind of Raleigh nightlife. I showed up here with a wife and a 4-month-old baby, and I was living in a hotel until November, so we didn't get out much. So that was one of my first early fun times with Trip. But the one thing that really sticks in my mind with Trip, it was my second training camp. I had a real disappointing first training camp, and we came in that second year for me, and the team had basically been very public about that there weren't any jobs to be had. Basically, everyone that was on the roster from last year that, had that, really good comeback in the playoffs against New Jersey was all going to be guaranteed a spot on the roster. And I can remember walking back through the, the bellows of the arena. We were headed out on a road trip for a game, and Tripp and I were chatting about everything, and he said to me, he's like, you've come in and, thrown a monkey wrench into their plans. He's like, just keep doing what you're doing. And, it was a difficult year. It was a difficult training camp. We had 9/11 happen. We normally started down in Florida, and so half the guys were there, half the guys were in Raleigh, and the guys that played on the team the year before were out there just having what looked like a mid-October skate, and the other 9, 10, 11 of us were out there just beating the snot out of each other for a solid week. So I think that I just remember those words of encouragement from Tripp that first year. And
Sweetheart.
yeah, well,
Good guy.
I remember Erik walking out because it was a long walk from the visiting dressing room to the ice in Edmonton, and what he had dug in to play in Game 6. And I remember in the minutes that he played what an impact he made in Game 7. And then the one other thing I think about in Pittsburgh, first couple of dad's trips, and I would actually go down. Go down to do the interviews between periods then. So I'd have to leave like 2 or 3 minutes left in the period. And I met Dennis Cole, his dad, wonderful, just a terrific human being, salt of the earth. And I met him because I was going down to interview him right outside the locker room, dad's Tripp. And he goes, hey, Tripp, I gotta take a leak. And so first of all, he's taking his time, and I'm like, come on, Dennis, we got to get down there. This is live television. And so we walked down through the stands. We got down there, and I mean, one of my true favorite people. And then we get on the camera does funny things, and he called me Skip.
which coincidentally enough, actually, it might have been a bad omen for me, because the night that I ended up getting hurt, I called you Skip at the end of our interview after the second period, and then I got injured in the third. Man, karma's a bee.
One of the things I love most about you, Tripp, I think you know everybody. Like, you know everybody's parents, their wives, their kids, their fathers, their mothers.
Well, we just look as we finish this. I mean, that's the really special thing about the Carolina Hurricanes. I had that memory with Dennis Cole. My mom, we lost my dad a few years ago, and she traveled with the team all the time. When they, Justin Williams set up Brock McGinn, they beat Washington, then beat New York, and then, went to the conference final. And my mom, who was grieving from losing my dad, spent a lot of time with Craig and Denise Williams, two of the coolest people on the planet. And Cam, I don't want to, make him feel uncomfortable, but my dad, is because of Cam's true grace and class, aside from the fact of the artistic nature that he played goal, and the bigger the moment, the better he played. He just loved Cam Ward, loved him. So that's the special thing about this group and these guys. My mom would say, she used to say this when I was drinking, Tripp, you're getting too Irish. But it's just a special group.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the connection.
Yeah. So, hey, thank you. The great questions. They deliver the goods.
I did.
Yeah.
We had a
Very good
great
talking
time.
to you.
Thank you guys,
Thank
and
you all so much.
thank you to A Doorway to Hope.
We're digging in with Tripp today, yeah. Today, yeah. Today, yeah. Today.